Hello, everyone out there in YouTube land. Welcome to Rainy Nights, the segment of my YouTube channel where I interview other motor vloggers and motorcycle personalities. If you haven't been here before, I am Rainy Rider. I ride a 2019 BMW Grand America and a 2021 Harley Sportster. Feel free to give the channel a subscribe and a like. Before we start tonight, I would like to just give a quick shout out. One of our members in our little group has passed, and his name was David Nick. He meant a lot to us. He was always there for us. He was always very encouraging. He was always the guy who was there for you. One of our other guys, Mad Yankee, was texting with him and telling me he was having a hard time and he needed support. And he says, "This is David Nick, remote coder, says, I encourage everyone. This is a brotherhood of riders. If we don't have each other's backs, there's no point in even doing this thing and sharing this experience." And that sums up David altogether. I mean, he was always there for everyone. He was in every chat. He was in most of the streams. He was always there to just, throw up a rock sign, and be there for you, to support you. So, David, we will miss you a lot. And fair roads, brother. We'll meet again someday. So with that out of the way, tonight's interview is with Red Rider. So would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from and what you ride.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Red Rider, or Angel if you want to call me by my first name. And I'm from the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, Canada. I ride a 1984 S&S 96-inch stroker Shovelhead custom bobber. And I also have a 1994 Dyna that I haven't ridden quite as much, but I got plans to do some long road trips on that thing, hopefully this year.
So interesting stories about the Dyna and the Shovelhead. The Dyna is obviously gorgeous, but that Shovelhead, wow. So you have done a lot to that Shovelhead.
Yeah, that's my...
So tell us
that's my pride and joy for sure. So the Shovelhead, a lot of people have a misconception in their mind that I built the Shovelhead completely by myself, which I didn't, and I can't take credit for it because my dad actually is the mastermind behind that. So my dad's been doing custom motorcycles my entire life for as long as I can remember, and I bought the Shovelhead when I was 16. So like 15 years ago, and didn't even have plans to ride it back then. The plan was that my dad and I would build it and sell it. And in between the age of 16 and 20, I got into riding actually. And then I decided to keep the Shovelhead. And that's when the vision for the bike came around. So it was my design. And then my dad was the fabricator behind the work. So it was a collaborated effort between him and I.
Now, your dad has one, I don't see it on the lift. I think I saw it behind you in today's video. Tell us about that one, because when I first saw it, I thought it was yours, and I was like, yeah, that's a bike, because everybody likes that bike.
Yeah, so the FL. Yeah, so that's a 1978 FX, and originally my brother bought it, and because it came up for a really good deal that couldn't be passed up. So my brother really likes the FL style Shovelheads. So him and my dad started converting it from an FX to an FL. So that's why it's got the elephant nose headlight cover on there and stuff. So that's kind of in the middle of being converted from an FX to an FL. And my dad and I, my dad bought it off my brother. And so now me and my dad are going to be finishing that project. This year, it's going to be going up on the lift after I do a few things to the Dyna and make that more roadworthy for myself, because right now it still doesn't quite fit me the way I'd like it to. We lowered the Dyna 3 inches so that I'd be able to put my feet flat on the ground sitting on it, but it's still a long reach for the pegs. So I want to put some footboards on there or something like that and make it so it's actually comfortable, and I have a little bit of a bend in my knees when I'm sitting on it.
And make it more controllable, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, my shovel. It's so much different than my Shovelhead because like the entire process of through like my Shovelhead build, had an opportunity to like sit on it every time, like when the pegs were getting mounted and the bars were getting made and everything. So the Shovelhead fits me exactly the way that I want it to fit. So I just feel like totally comfortable on that thing, and the Dyna's still needs a few things done to it to make me feel as confident as I'd like to feel on that.
Yeah, they're all good looking bikes, all three of them. Let's see who you've got in the audience today. So
I see a few of my viewers. Hey, Jason.
We've got my Pillions here. Most importantly, my Pillion is here. Gma Rides came out. Hey, Gma. Nothing at random. Aaron's here. Aaron is the one that I said is my little brother. So Aaron is my little brother and my brother that I grew up with, who obviously neither one are my real brothers, but take him under my wing. Downtown 650. I actually grew up with him. We've been friends since we were like 5.
Nice.
Hatter's here. Hatter always shows up. Downtown 650. Pyotr Petrovic. Okay, my Russian's a little rusty, but I think I got that right.
Peter Petrov.
Okay. Alan Rutledge.
I don't know.
Classic Rider. Colleen's here. Skittles McDiddles. Casey's showing up. 9 Mills. The Dirty Knobs. That must be one of yours. He's not one of the extra. Hey, Dirty Knobs, if you subscribe, you can be one of my extras and be here all the time. Yuka. Jason Brixton. Good. We got a pretty good lineup out here. So if you guys have any questions, just put them down on the chat. But make sure you put either my name or her name leading where we can see it light up. That way we'll see the question for us. There's always a lot of comments, which is great. I love it when people talk to each other in my comments because it keeps the banter flowing. It's really cool. But sometimes it goes so fast I can't see it. So make sure if it's to us, make sure you put our names in the front of it where we'll be able to see the questions. So if anybody has
I see a good handful of my viewers here.
Say hi to them. Go ahead and say hi to all your guys.
Yeah. I see Jason and Peter Petrov, Harley Pete, Harley Geezer. I got a lot of you guys here. Thanks for showing up, guys.
Oh, Harley Geezer's yours too? We share him. Excellent.
Yeah. We share him. We can share. It's okay.
Yeah. So Harley Geezer goes to the campouts with us down in Tampa. So yeah,
nice.
I get to see him every year. So you'll have to go to those. We'll get to the campouts later. We'll get to those in a minute. But yes, be prepared for everyone to want you to start going to these campouts. So first question, this isn't on the question, but because we're talking about the Dyna, how tall actually are you?
I'm 5'2" and change.
Okay. So I don't see Shay in the audience, but yeah, Shay's like even 5 foot, and she rides big bikes all the time. So I think that's great when women don't let things slow them down. Any short people, don't let them slow them down from getting on a big bike, because once they're moving, they're all the same height anyway, except for the controls reach, I guess. But
yeah, that makes a difference. You want to be able to hit your brake if you need to.
That's very important.
Yeah, there's a few really short girls that ride just like massive, like really tall bikes, but they do like a one leg up type thing or whatever and get the bike going and then throw the other leg over. I got pretty good at pushing around when I was working at the Harley dealer. I could push around like all the baggers, all the big bikes and stuff. And so I got pretty good at like pushing bikes around, but as long as you can get your feet on the ground, just even the toes, and get it going, that's all.
Yeah,
that's all you need to be able to do.
It's just like a big rig.
From there.
It's like a big rig. Once you get it moving, you're there.
Yeah, and then just be careful which way you got your wheel pointed when you stop, too. You don't want the weight all shifting over and onto one side.
Very important.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. The first question for you is, could we convince you to show up at a Forgotten Angels compound or camp out?
I don't know how much convincing I need. I really want to go to one of those. I don't know if I mentioned it in one of my other videos or not, or maybe I thought I mentioned it, The only thing that would prevent me from doing any like long road trips like that on my bike is just having like a riding buddy, someone who's committed to doing a road trip like that with me, just for support, right, in case anything happened on the road or anything like that. But well, I definitely...
As you say that, G My Ride says you're just a couple hours from her. So I had her on last night. I think you had maybe watched some of that. But yeah, she lives up in... G My, where are you at? You're up in Reading? Are you up in... She'll tell us here in a second, but yeah, she's not far from you. So if you dip down into, I think she's up in Washington State. She's right there. Yeah.
Nice.
She says she's in.
Yeah, so. She's really close then. Mm-hmm.
All right.
You're in? Cool.
She said she's in.
Yep. Just got to get the dyno fitting me better, and that's going to be my long haul bike. That thing's like got a brand new engine, and it's only got 6,400 kilometers on that engine.
Nice.
Well, I don't know what that is in miles, but it's low. It's like it's like under 4,000 miles or something.
Yeah. Don't embarrass me. I'll do a bad conversion, but something like 4,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so your dad's a rider, but how long have you been riding? So I'm guessing it's probably going to be really young. What was your first exposure to motorcycles?
My first exposure, I've been riding on the back of motorcycles since I was a little kid. So I didn't start riding myself. I rode dirt bikes like here and there, like in my teenage years. And then I didn't actually start riding on the road until I was 20. That was when I got serious about riding and actually wanted to have a bike of my own and be out there on the road and stuff. So I've been riding for, I guess almost 10 or 11 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you're right. So I saw the video of you riding the Shovelhead when it rained, and that's a feat in itself. One, no shield. Do you even have a front? You don't have a front cowl
no
on it.
Front
no
fender.
fairing, no fender. No, it's like a champ.
It wasn't supposed to rain that day. I was like, oh, it was ridiculous. But you just gotta lean off to the side a little bit so the rooster tail's not hitting you right in the face.
Excellent.
The hardest part about that is getting when your glasses get so wet that you can't really see through them anymore. And yeah, it was fun. I don't know. It felt like an inconvenience a little bit at the time, but it's good memories. I don't mind getting wet or cold on the road.
Apparently not, because I've seen some of the places you ride. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Which leads me to another question that's not on the list. Did you ever find out what kind of truck that was that you found buried in the snow up in the mountains?
Oh, a bunch of my viewers commented what it was. I don't remember what it's called though. Someone who's watched the video, maybe is in the live stream, might be able to remind me, but it was actually a car, and I don't remember the name of it. I just gotta plug my computer in here.
So give the rest of the viewers that are in here some background on how you found that, what you were doing when you found it.
I was just driving around. I was bored, and it's been a long winter here. Us in the Okanagan, we usually have really mild winters, and I'll usually be riding my bike until January, and then I'll take a week off maybe in January from riding because the roads are too bad. But this winter has just been so long and cold, and we've had so much snow. So it was sunny out one day, and the roads are still snowy. But I was like, I'm just gonna go for a drive and just drive around some of the roads that I would normally ride my bike down. And then I was driving this one road that I always take my bike down, and I was like, I kind of want to I'm just going to climb into these hills here a little bit. And so I just drove my truck up into these hills and wandering around out there. I don't know. I just like wandering around in the forest or whatever, right? Sometimes. So I'm just wandering around and I see this car down there. I was like, what is this? What is this even doing here? So I run over there to check it out. It looked like a tree had fallen on it at some point or something. It was squished. it was like squished and almost folded in half. But yeah, I was just messing around, doing whatever. I like going for drives and stuff and hiking, finding different things. So
it looked like it had been there a while. It was an old block with it looked like a straight six, and you could tell just from the paneling and from the actual frame of the car, it had been there. One, for quite a while, but two, it was a very old car, probably from maybe the 40s.
Yeah, I think a few people said it was like a 50. Oh, I wish I could remember what it was now, but it doesn't look like anybody in the comments knows what we're talking about. Yeah. If I remember, then I'll let you know later, but
right,
my memory sucked for that kind of stuff.
Keep me updated, because I was like, as I was watching the video, I was like, oh, I know what that is. Well, that's a straight six, but I think that's a... Is that a Toyota? No, it can't be. No, what is that? I don't know.
No.
So it was very interesting just to watch, because when you see old stuff like that, I get mesmerized by old engines, and it doesn't have to be motorcycles. It could be anything like that, but it's just so interesting, the technology of these old engines. You would think that, this engine's 70 years old, there can't be that much technology in it, but there's actually a lot more mechanical technology in those, because they had to overcome things like oil pumps and water pumps and things that we now can just put, we can just put an attached one on and it takes care of everything. Back then, they didn't have a whole lot of belts on the engine. Everything was internally driven from all the cams and from all the lifters and from all the, of the flywheels and stuff. So very interesting stuff.
It's a different type of technology for sure. And I prefer older vehicles just for the fact that they don't have all this computer stuff. If something goes wrong with a computer, it's like, good luck figuring out what it is or fixing it, right? Like,
here, buy a new CPU. That's a new ECU is about the only way you're going to fix anything like that.
Yeah.
So Gma has a question. How long did it take you to rebuild the Shovelhead?
When we actually started working on it, it only took probably about a couple years, and that wasn't even working solid on it. It took the longest to find the parts that I wanted, because I was just really particular about the look that I wanted, and I wasn't settling for anything else. That's why my gas tank is so small. I've got like a 125 Honda gas tank on there, on a 1500 cc gas guzzler. So, but yeah, that took the longest, was just tracking on parts and stuff and having the money to do the work, right? So probably a couple years in total.
And if you haven't seen the bike, go to her channel. There's a few different videos of her working on it, but it's a beautiful bike. It's green and it's got copper fittings on it, and it's a lot of brass on it. And I haven't seen anything like it, not in a showroom, or not in like a museum type show setting. And this is in your garage. This is something you drive. You drive this thing around. So it's not like
it's my daily.
But it's
my daily rider.
It's gorgeous.
I've had a few people tell me I should put it in shows, and I probably will one day. But I've always just thought, like, man, if my bike's in a show all day, that means I can't ride it.
Yeah, I was gonna say yes. You'd probably ride it to the show. They do have the Run What You Brung shows where you actually have to drive the bike in. So you're not competing with a bike that has never been started and never had oil run through it. You're competing with bikes that actually had to run to get there. And I like going to those more, because those are real bikes. Those are, you look at these bikes that have like the big, 40-inch front wheels, and they're slammed and they're like an inch off the ground. I cannot imagine riding one of those. And the first thing I think is, you can't ride that thing. You can't turn in that thing. You can't take a corner. But when you see a bike that somebody actually had to ride, yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah,
I was going to say, you'd be cornering like you're in a semi-truck on a bike like that.
Well, not even that. You take one corner and you're missing half your bike because you're going to leave it on the asphalt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. I kind of already know this, but are you a fair weather rider or a rough rider?
Both. Yeah. Like, anyone who's watched any of my videos knows the biggest thing is my Shovelhead's a fair weather bike, so I try to avoid weather on my Shovelhead, just because there's a lot of things on there that are just too exposed, and I don't want to risk wrecking something by going out into the rain. But when I was riding my little XT, when I first started riding, I didn't care if it was raining and I had somewhere to go. I'll just hop on the bike and go, right? So that's the biggest thing that prevents me from riding in the weather now, is just that my Shovelhead's a fair weather bike. But when it comes to riding, I'm a all kinds of weather rider.
I hear you're a barefoot Kickstarter too.
Not really.
No, I saw it.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
No, that was a pretty good. I won't give it away, but if you haven't seen that barefoot Kickstart video, go watch it. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It's the only one you'll ever get on my channel.
So, okay, I kind of already know this one too, but who inspires you to ride?
My dad, for sure. Yeah, my dad pushed me into it a little bit. He used to always tell me when I was growing up, like, I used to ride this little banana seat lowrider bicycle around with Abe hangers, and I loved this bicycle, and I would ride it everywhere. Like, didn't matter if it was snowing out and there was ice on the road or whatever. When I was a teenager, I would just ride this bicycle everywhere. And I remember my dad back then always telling me, Angel, like, you would love having a motorcycle. You got to get yourself your bike license. And yeah, so he definitely encouraged me to get into it. And yeah, I can't imagine my life now without a motorcycle in it. Honestly, like, I can't imagine myself at any point in the future without a motorcycle. So I definitely never looked back when I did start actually riding myself. But yeah, my dad's definitely been my biggest inspiration when it comes to motorcycles, for sure.
Excellent, and that's a good place to get it from. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we were talking to a lady last night who brought her daughter to Sturgis and used to run around with her kids on the back of the motorcycle. So that's a great way to get into it. When it's a family affair, it just seems like it makes you just that much closer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something that you just
for sure. It's funny because my parents had 8 kids together, and of all the kids in the family, I'm the only one who's like kind of kept up that whole side of things with motorcycles and stuff. One of my brothers just got his bike license recently, and then my one sister's talking about getting hers now. But yeah, I'm the only one who kind of stuck with it. And I remember even being a little kid, I always wanted to be around the garage, like in the shop and stuff. My dad had a shop out of our house for a long time, working on people's bikes. And I remember always getting kicked out of there because little kids get in the way in a garage, especially like a functioning workshop. But I always wanted to be around and see what was going on in the garage. So it's something that I've definitely always been into.
So are you the youngest?
No, I'm in the middle.
Are you in the middle?
So
it's usually the youngest that gets pulled into all the shenanigans when dad finally realizes, well, that's the last one. Okay, I don't care if the last one's a boy or a girl, it's going with me everywhere. And that becomes because they did that with mine. I call my 16-year-old my clone. So I try to pull her into the garage with me and try to do things with the motorcycle, and I want to turn her into a motorcyclist. And now the older one, she wants to get into motorcycles now that she's older. But it's the youngest one gets all of my tribal knowledge. So we got a lot more people showing up. Let's see who we've got. Casey was already here. Foco Dave, that must be one of yours. He says it was a Studebaker Lark. The car.
Oh, okay.
Dirty Knob said it was a 1950 Tesla. I highly doubt that. Mad Yankee just showed up. Mad Yankee's good to have you in. David Larson, I think he was already here. Shadow's coming in. Billy, Bleak Rides is here.
Bleak Rides, Shadow, I know all you guys. Alan.
Irish Guy, Charlie,
yeah, I
and
see
Jerry.
lots of...
Yep, so we got a good turnout tonight.
Irish Guy, hey, Jesse. Yeah, it's cool. It's 50. Hey, Jesse. Yeah, I see lots of people lots of my viewers on here. Thanks for showing up, guys.
Yeah, guys, thanks for showing up. And don't forget, you can also follow me. And my guys, go follow her. Give her a follow. I promise you, when you get, a lot of people you're subscribed to, a lot of them you subscribe to because you want to support them, you start narrowing down the people that you actually will, anytime they have a video, you're immediately going to watch it. And yours is one of mine. There's probably like 5 or 6 YouTubers that I will immediately have to watch when they come out because your content is always motorcycles. There's no trips to the coffee shop. There's no trips to, do other stuff. Your content is all motorcycles. Even when you were moving, your content was motorcycles. I'm moving motorcycles. Here's how we tied down the trailer. Here's how we got the fat boy with no brakes down the ramp. I was waiting for something to go wrong there, and I was hoping it wouldn't. But yeah, magic stuff. So if you guys don't follow her, give her a ride. Give her a follow. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
So rides. Would you rather a solo ride or a group ride?
Definitely solo rides. I think I've gone on a few like big group rides, but I always enjoy solo riding better. I think I've only ever had one riding buddy who we just like synced perfectly when we rode together, and we didn't have to think about what the other person was doing or anything like that. Like it's almost like we had telepathy when we rode together, because just if I just moved slightly over in the lane, like he knew which way I was going, and he knew when I was going to pass someone and stuff. So you don't get that. Like that's really hard to find with most people that you end up riding with. You always got to be concerned with what someone is doing behind you or beside you, or how they're going to take this corner or whatever. So
yeah, sometimes
when I'm on the road, yeah, and I've only ever had that like one time with one of my friends, and then he ended up getting married and we stopped riding together, which kind of sucks, but that's the way it goes.
See, that's what most people say. A good marriage will ruin a good motorcycle lifestyle.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
Well, it didn't mind. Like I said, my pillion, and that's why I took the name Pillion, because if we're gonna go for a big ride, she's gonna go with me. I mean, it just makes things so much better. So Sraight Sargent just popped in, and I know that we talked about. I asked Sraight Sargent if he would just come in and say hi to you because you're a huge fan, and you have a Shovelhead. So,
hey man.
So Josh is in. He said hi a couple times in here. I skip over something. Like I said, if it doesn't show up in orange, I kind of miss stuff sometimes. But yeah, he is in. So maybe you can impart some Shovelhead wisdom on Shay. Now that we're all one big happy
impart
family.
Some Shovelhead wisdom. Did you just get a Shovelhead?
Shay just got a Shovelhead. So he's got a Shovelhead that he drove down, obviously from the Pacific Northwest. But she just got one that she's trying to fix up. So I guess both of them, yeah.
Well, I'd say just make sure you got a lot of patience for that thing, because you're gonna need it. Definitely. You got what did you get? Or what did she get? Do you know? Is it like a kickstart only?
I think hers has a kickstart, but it also has
electric.
I'm gonna
have to go watch it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure hers has electric too.
You gotta have patience for the old shovels, that's for sure. But you'll grow to love it if you don't already love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
People always say they're like tractors, and I'd agree with that.
Yeah, Gma is trying to get hers back together too. It was together before, but I think she's about to do a project with it. So. It's something about the Shovelhead. It's mystical. Like I think in the 70s and 80s, people were trying to get old panheads and knuckleheads, and now it's like you're not going to find one. If you find one, you're going to spend a buttload of money. But you can still find Shovelheads. So the Shovelheads, I guess, are the new conquest. Things that you can actually still afford and try to work on, and the still is going to give you a very good challenge for your time, I guess. And the more challenging something is, obviously, If the ride is quick and easy, you're not going to remember it. So just like fixing the Shovelhead, I think is a landmark kind of thing. Something you actually have to work at.
Yeah, you definitely gotta. Like I wouldn't have anyone else work on my bike, and it's definitely something like you gotta be willing to. If you're not the kind of person who likes wrenching on their bikes, then having a Shovelhead probably going to end up costing you a lot of money. Pay other people to work on it all the time.
True story.
So I always say it's like if you got a shovel head, you got yourself a tinker toy, because you're basically always going to be tinkering with something on it. But it depends on if that's what you like, right? Like I personally like that relationship you end up building with the motorcycle when you're working on it all the time. And that's why I like Kickstart, because it's like you build this unique relationship with your motorcycle, and it's like as someone else can go be kicking your bike for 15, 20 minutes and they're never going to get it started because they don't know your bike, and they're all different too. Every Kickstart. Yeah.
Corey says that. Corey Saddle Tramp says once you put points on a bike and make it kickstart, you better have done a good job. Anybody can start an electric start bike and make it start. For a kickstart, you better know what you're doing. Otherwise, you'll be kicking on it all day. Mm-hmm.
You got to get the sequence down, and that's actually what kind of started. That was one of the first videos I ever put on YouTube. I never planned on YouTube ever going anywhere for me, to be honest. My dad actually is one who encouraged me to do that too. My dad's been telling me for years, like, Angel, you gotta start putting videos of yourself with your shovel head up on YouTube, because people are gonna want to watch that. Like, you're a young girl with a cool bike. You gotta like get on YouTube. Like, there's people all over YouTube looking for that kind of stuff. And one of the first videos I ever put up was my cold start sequence, because I had it down pat, and I got it down again after my engine rebuild. And so I was like, every time I went out to start my bike, I knew exactly what to do to get it started first kick. And you just got to figure it out. And it's so funny because the littlest thing can mess up the entire sequence sometimes. And then you just got to, if you're like me, you'll be stubborn and you're going to sit there kicking it for 15 or 20 minutes till you get it started. But the best thing to do is just walk away and let it sit for a bit and then come back at it. Try again.
It's like casting a magic spell. If you get it in the wrong order, you might summon a chicken instead of summoning a demon. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So up in Canada, I know the riding seasons are pretty short, but you've got some pretty epic meetups up there for these moto rides. What's the favorite one that you go to, or do you go to any? I'm assuming since your dad.
I haven't gone.
Go ahead.
My dad's been riding for a long time, but my dad, what he did before he had kids, my dad's had a family for a long time, so I think that kind of just kept him at home for the most part. And he's never really been into big events in that way either. I haven't done any big meetups yet, personally. I used to go to this one weekly ride, and that's been kind of the extent of any of that kind of stuff. But my Shovelhead has also kind of been a project for a lot of the time that I've been riding it. Like not last year, but the year before, I didn't even ride my Shovelhead because it was apart. Like, the engine was in pieces in someone's shop for like the entire riding season. And so I haven't really gone to any big meetups, but I definitely want to start getting out to them. And that's kind of what I have plans with the Dyna to do more meetups and stuff. But then on the other hand, I'm like, man, my Shovelhead is what should be at those meetups.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There's a couple places near me that I want to go and check. Like, there's a couple things that happen. There's this place called Toad Rock that's a few hours from where I live, and it's like a big biker camp, like biker friendly campground. But they do different stuff there and each year. So I'm definitely want to go and check out some of that stuff. But so far, I haven't really gone to many big meetups.
So down here we have bike nights. So and they're usually at like Sonic's, and sometimes they're at motorcycle shops, and sometimes I've seen it happen at McDonald's before. Do you have anything up there like that? Like, do you go to the Tim Hortons and do motorcycle meetups?
There's it's kind of, there used to be a lot of that kind of stuff when I was younger in my area here, but I don't know whatever happened. And I don't know whatever happened because a lot of that stuff just kind of fizzled out. Like in my town where I was living in Penticton, that's part of the reason why, like, I just moved like an hour and a half north of where I was living. And there's more of that kind of stuff that happens here. But a lot of that stuff I was never even able to make it to because I was always working. And then it would be like an hour and a half one way just to get to these meetups and stuff. So there is that kind of stuff that happens around here in Kelowna. But none of it that I've really been to yet. Because like I said, I was living in Penticton the whole time and always ended up having to work. So yeah, I don't know what it is. It's weird because I remember being a kid in the 90s and there was all kinds of bike stuff going on, like show and shine down at the bar downtown in Penticton, and easy riders used to actually come up to that show and shine. My uncle, he's got like 20 acres of property up in the mountains out on the outskirts of Penticton, and easy riders actually, after one of these show and shine nights, went up to his place and partied, and he's got a magazine that, I don't know if it's the cover of the magazine, I can't remember, or just like a center spread that is the view from his front yard looking down over his lake. So we used to have some really good like biker meetups and stuff that would go on around here, but it all kind of died out, and I don't really know what happened, if it was like city council just pushed it out or what. But Penticton's it's a retirement town. It's like it's geared towards the retirement community, and it's kind of just gone more into that direction over the years. So it kind of sucks a little bit. So it used to be real fun.
Is that the town where the Harley dealer and the Indian dealer is?
No, that's Kelowna. So Penticton's where I was living before.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Kelowna's like an hour north of Penticton.
Okay.
So.
Trying to get my Canadian cities straight there.
Yeah.
Gma says where she lives, there's a lot of meetups in Washington State. So come on down and bring your shovelhead.
I'm gonna have to. I definitely want to get doing some road trips this year.
Is there a border crossing somewhere up there you can get through? How easy is it to get to the States from up there?
From Kelowna, I think it's 2 hours. It's just 2 hours to go, and there's a border crossing in or near Soyuz. I've never actually been to the States, so.
Really? Well, if you come down, Gma has offered anyone that comes visits her a place to stay and food. So come on down.
Nice. Thanks, Gma.
She's apparently a good cook. Her daughter was saying last night that to make sure she cooks a cheesecake, I think is what her daughter had said. But yeah, I promise you, anywhere you come down here, any of this group, you've got a place to stay and you'll get fed. So if you decide to come to the States, hit us up.
Go to Gma's, yeah. I was thinking that the other night, actually. It was like, it's cool. Like, all these countries I've never been to before, and just like through my YouTube, I've got like multiple offers. So if you ever come here, then got a place to stay.
Yeah, it's
really
amazing.
Cool.
So I started traveling, across the States again a couple of years ago, and it seems like now all the places that I used to drive through and stop, and I was like, well, I guess I got to get a hotel. Now I know people in every one of those cities. So I'm like, I should never have to stay in a hotel again unless I really want to bug somebody.
Yeah.
So what do we got here? So Peter was saying he has a Dnepr, and he's actually the third person I've ever met that's had a Dnepr. Actually, I haven't met him yet, but I belonged to so I really like Urals. I like Russian motorcycles, and the group I was in was called Russian Cycles, and pretty much every bike in there was a Ural except for two Dneprs. So it's like the cast out child.
His Dnepr was actually just in the last episode of my Viewers Rides, the one that came out today.
Yeah.
As well as in, I think, episode number 5. I think he was also had his Dnepr in that one. So
Neat. Yeah, I started watching that and I was like, okay, she's answering some of the questions I'm going to ask. I probably should not watch this one yet. But there were some beautiful bikes in there, though. So the one
yeah, there's always.
I can't remember which city it was in. I think it was somewhere overseas where the dude had a little bitty cart bike. It was like a 50cc bike.
Yeah, there's South Africa probably.
South Africa, yes, that's where it was.
Yeah.
That was
so
the neatest
this
whole
bird,
thing.
oh man, he's got such a cool collection of stuff too. Like, I don't know, like most of them he doesn't have anymore. So I think he lived in Germany before, and he's sent me so many pictures of different bikes that he's had before, and I'm like, just keep sending them, and I'll keep putting them in episodes because you got some really unique, cool bikes, like he's got bikes and mopeds and stuff like that, like things that I've never even heard of before. But yeah, he's got all kinds of cool bikes.
Very neat. Harley, Pete just said he subscribed to me. Thanks, Pete. Yay, I'm doing a good job.
Yay.
Let's see. What's our next question? What is the stupidest thing you've ever done on a motorcycle?
Stupidest thing I've ever done on a motorcycle? Well, I used to go on these group rides when I was working at Harley, and there'd be like 40 bikes or something like that. Usually they'd show up for these rides on Thursday nights. And so I would just stay late after work because I was commuting back and forth at that time. And my Shovelhead was in pieces that year, but they would always give me a loaner bike from the demo fleet. So I'd always have like a little Sportster iron to ride or something like that to ride around for. They'd let me take them home, or they'd let me take them on these bike nights. And anyway, there'd be like 40 guys that would show up for these bike nights. But majority of these guys were just like, I don't know, like their egos were bigger than their brains. And they would just ride around like maniacs, man. It's like everywhere they went, they had to be going like twice the speed limit. And one of the rides we went on was down some back road in Kelowna here, and in an area like I was completely unfamiliar with. So I'm like trying to keep up with these guys, and we get to the meetup spot, and then we all get there, and then they're all like, okay, like now we're gonna go to this restaurant. So we're on this windy road. It's like a 50 kilometer an hour speed limit or 60 kilometers an hour, and they're all doing like 100 kilometers an hour. I don't know what this is in miles, but they're all going like twice the speed. Yeah, 65 miles an hour, right? Is the speed they're going in like a 40 mile an hour zone. Like they're going crazy, like double the speed limit everywhere they're going. Anyway, this windy road, and I'm just trying to keep up with these guys. And I was like the only girl. There was only like 3 other girls riding. And I was the only girl that was even remotely keeping up with any of them. And I'm like trying to keep up with this group because I'm like, I don't know where I am, and I don't know how to get back to the highway to get home, even if I do lose these guys. So I was trying to keep up with these guys, which was just stupid. And I end up in this left-hand corner, and there's someone on the left-hand side of me. So I'm on the outside of this left-hand corner, and I just remember my front tire I just remember seeing my front tire was like 3 or 4 inches away from the cracked asphalt on the side of the road, where there's like a 6-inch drop and then just a gravel shoulder. And I don't know what happened, like my counter steering instinct kicked in, thankfully, because I don't know how I got out of that, but my last thought was like, this is the day that I go down like good on a bike. And thankfully I didn't go down, but after that I was like, you know what, whatever, I'd rather get lost than end up in the side of a mountain. So that was probably the stupidest thing
And you were still
I've
on the
ever done
iron?
on a bike.
You were still on the iron?
I was on iron, yeah. So it was one of the bikes from the shop. They'd loaned it to me for the ride. So yeah, probably that's the dumbest thing. I've never been a stunt rider or anything like that. So I plan on getting a dirt bike and doing some stupid stuff out in the bush at some point. But
The one thing I do like about my Sportster is it's like driving a dirt bike. I can bend it around a telephone pole. I swear I can. It's so easy to maneuver. So that might have been a good thing. Might have been a good thing somebody loans you one. So the follow-up question, what was your scariest moment on a bike?
Scariest moment on a bike was, other than that one, because I actually thought I might die that time, was last year when I was riding on the highway again, and it was dark out, and I'd been riding all day, so all I had with me was my sunglasses, and I had my sunglasses on my face. Normally I keep yellows in my shirt. If I think I'm going to be riding like into the dark or whatever, I'll just have a pair of yellow lenses and I'll switch them out. But I didn't have them this time because I didn't think I'd be out that late. And I'm like riding up the highway, and I was coming up to this intersection, and remember just seeing that the light's green, but it's like everyone's going like real slow or they're stopped or whatever. And then as I'm coming into the intersection, like I can't hear anything but the wind and my bike. And I'm coming into this intersection and it's all lit up, and I can hear like cars honking around me. And I'm like, what's going on? So I slow down a little bit, and right like 10 feet in front of me, not even, there's this huge like 8-point buck that came within like 6 feet. I would not have stopped. Thankfully, this buck saw me before I saw him, and he stopped in his tracks. And I was like, if he wouldn't have stopped, I would have been going right into the side of him. And that was that was scary. Like that definitely got my heart beating that time. But thank God somebody was looking out for me, because that was a really close call, that one.
Sraight and Jima are saying that the best lessons you learn are the ones you learn the hard way. In the Navy, we call that a self-correcting error. It's something you do one time, and then you go, yep, I remember how that happened. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah. So definitely got to keep your eyes out on the road, especially at nighttime, especially when you got deer that like to hang out in the city.
Yeah, and I've seen some of your rides. It's literally like you just drop down into it almost looks like a bowl when you come across that. It looks maybe a bridge with a lot of lights on it. And all of a sudden you're there. You're there in the city. So you're not far actually out of the city at all.
No, yeah, you're talking about some of my older rides. Yeah, like Penticton's in a valley, so we got like a lake. We got a lake on either end of the city, but then we got all like side roads that kind of skirt the lakes and stuff. So that's normally where I'll end up riding, and then the highway skirts around the right side of both lakes, right? So
it's gorgeous.
that's normally where I'll end up riding. Yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
But
Penticton actually means pardon?
But that just means the wildlife is more prevalent. So.
Oh yeah, the deer here is ridiculous. I don't know what it is. We got deer all over the place in Penticton. I don't know what it's like in Kelowna. I haven't seen too many deer around here, but in Penticton, it's like they'll come into town and have their babies, and then you'll have like these ferocious mother deers running around with their babies, like chasing people with their dogs and stuff like that. Like, that's ridiculous.
I can't remember where it was. I saw 2 buck moose fighting. I think it was in Minnesota. But they're literally fighting in the middle of the street, and they're like bumping into cars like the cars aren't even there. It's like it looks like they're knocking over trash cans when they hit these cars. They just knock them out of the way. So, so what has been your favorite part of riding?
My favorite part of riding is I think it's just the escape, I guess. Just like getting away from everything and just being out there in your own little world, I guess, out on the road. I always think of being out on the highway or out on the road just riding. It's always when I have like my best kind of, I don't know, pep talks for myself, or just like my own little conversations with myself. But it's like when you when you like lay in one of those tubs, or those like Zen tubs. I've never been in one, But the feeling you get when you just have you lay with your ears under the water.
Oh, the sensory
you
deprivation.
just have like your eyes and your nose.
The sensory deprivation
and
looks like a coffin.
Yeah, or even just being in a pool or whatever, in the bathtub, and you just put your ears under the water, and it just kind of drowns out everything going on around you, right? And it just like gives you that chance to kind of just get lost in your thoughts and stuff. That's what it's like for me, like being on the bike. And that's part of the reason why I like having an open face helmet, is because I feel like just with the wind in my ears and just the sound of my bike, it just makes it so easy just to kind of just get lost in your own thoughts and just kind of disconnect from everything.
Right on. So what has been the most frustrating part of riding for you?
Most frustrating part? Can't really say that I've got any real frustrating parts of riding. I don't know. I would say maybe the times when I can't get my bike started. It's probably the most frustrating. But then you're not riding, then you're just trying to start your bike.
Shay Lisi just dropped in, so is there any wisdom you want to drop to her about shovelheads?
Yeah, like I was saying, just make sure you got a lot of patience for that thing, because you're going to need it for sure. And always make sure that you pick up shovelhead parts when you find them for a good deal, because it doesn't matter if you need it now, you're going to need it eventually.
It's so it's right behind your shoulder. Do you want to show it off a little bit?
Yeah. Just nestled in there.
You can't tell, but it's got a lot of copper work on it. And it's gorgeous.
Yeah, you can't see it from here. Yeah, I have a couple videos on my channel actually that are that actually show the bike close up and talk about some of the custom parts that we made for it and stuff. So if people want to go back on my channel, those are some of my first videos.
So say that again, you made those parts.
Yeah, like parts that my dad and I made. Like my tail light is a good example of, actually there's a few good examples of just completely custom parts on there, but my tail light is the most, probably the most custom, I guess you could say. It's probably one of my favorite parts on the bike. So I used to watch this girl in Japan who rode a Shovelhead. She probably still rides it, some Kickstart only Shovelhead. And I liked the taillight she had because it had like two lenses. It had a lens on the back and then a lens on the front, and they were different colors. So I wanted a taillight kind of like that. And I was like, Dad, this is like the kind of taillight I want. And he made this taillight out of a piece of pipe, and then he like made the brass collar for it. And so he found like this little red lens, but then in the back for the front lens, in the back of the taillight for the front lens, instead of a lens, he actually put a marble in there. So I've got a marble in the back part of my taillight that when you turn the taillight on, or when you turn the lights on or the brakes light up, then it like lights through this marble.
That's cool.
So it's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah, I show it in my video, in my one video back on my channel. I can't show you guys right now because the bike's buried in there, but
I guess we got to go to your channel and watch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's titled like my custom Shovelhead or something like that. But yeah, that's probably one of my favorite. And the marbles are changeable too, so I can actually change it. I'm actually want to find like a purple to put in there, like an old purple marble, because I like purple.
Purple's good.
Yeah.
So if you were to, now you've been riding for a while and you grew up around bikes, but if someone, let's say, just finished their motorcycle safety course, had got maybe a 250, outgrew the 250 and said, okay, I'm ready to get a better bike now. I need one that's reliable, that's easy to ride, that's easy to work on, that I can do my own maintenance on. What would you recommend them? Shovelhead.
Shovelhead is cool, but I wouldn't recommend that unless you actually like working on your bike.
Yeah, not at all.
Then I wouldn't. I don't know. I'm a Harley girl. Like I've ridden other things, but I've never really had to work on anything. I worked on my little Yamaha when I had it, but I always suggest to people to get Harleys, and it's not because I'm dead set on Harley being the best bike or anything like that. My biggest thing for that is Harley parts are easy to come by, first of all, because they're there's Harleys all over the place, right? Like Harley dealers everywhere. But then secondly, Harley will basically always hold its value. It doesn't matter. Like if your engine needs to be rebuilt, they're always worth rebuilding, and they're always resaleable afterwards, right? Like where some other bikes, if your engine goes on some other different Japanese bikes and stuff like that, a lot of the time they're not worth rebuilding, or the amount of money you'd end up spending to rebuild them is a little bit more than what the bike is probably worth at that point after you've had however many miles on it, right? But I'm a Harley girl. I'm not telling anybody what's the best bike. I don't go on what's the best bike or anything like that or whatever. For me, whatever people want to ride, whatever they like, I think that's what matters. It's like we don't ride for the bike, we ride for the feeling we get on that bike, right? So I like Harleys. I like the way they sound. I grew up around Harleys, and to me, nothing sounds like a Harley. I think my 6-year-old nephew put it the best when I showed him one of my Kickstart videos, and he just looks at me. He's like, "It sounds like a horse galloping on metal." I'm like, "You're exactly right, kiddo." Like,
so yeah, and you can get the parts for them anywhere. So Josh was just saying, he said in a couple of his videos that you can literally build a Harley out of not Harley parts and build the complete bike. So you don't have to worry about if your oil pump goes out, if your header, if you lose your exhaust, if you blow a rim, if you blow the front end, if you blow the struts out, you can get those parts just about anywhere and fix that bike.
There's always, and especially in like that circle of people, like if you've got a Harley and you are hanging out with the other people that ride Harleys and stuff like that, guaranteed everybody in your circle of friends probably accumulated. You could probably put all their parts together and build 2 or 3 more Harleys out of all the parts that everyone's got kicking around in their garage. So yeah, Harley parts are usually really easy to come by, and that's what I find a lot in the circle of people that I know, which are most my dad's old friends, people that I grew up around and stuff. But we'll just call each other up if something breaks on our bike. You just get on the phone and start calling the people, hey, you got one of these laying around? Yeah, like, I'll trade you for one of those because I need that. And it's so easy to find parts for Harleys. And like I said, they're always worth fixing because they always hold their value.
That's
like I bought that Dyna. I bought that Dyna, and it was an ICBC. It was like written off by insurance, but I picked it up and did whatever I had to do to it to get insurance on it again, which was just like minor cosmetic stuff for the most part. Well, not really minor stuff, but yeah, like mostly for the most part it was cosmetic stuff, and then just maintenance type things that had been neglected for a long time, like seals and stuff like that. And that thing is probably worth like easily double what I paid for it now. If I make it just a little nicer, like fix up the bodywork a little bit, right? But that's the thing. It's like you can have a completely smashed up, crashed up Harley, and it's still a Harley, and they're always going to be something sought after on the market.
So Shade Tree's saying he's got so many parts in his garage he can build an Evo chopper with just what's on the shelves in his garage right now, and he's going to do it. So Josh, we're looking forward to that video because I like any bike.
Yeah,
I like any video where somebody's building a bike, working on a bike, doing something, because I know that's going to be me one day wanting to know how that's done. So
yeah.
Too
I really like
crazy.
watching Pacific Mike's channel. Have you heard of Pacific Mike?
No.
Yeah, you got to
I'll
check
look
him
for it
out
now.
because he's like, yeah, man, he's like one of the old wise biker guys who's just like, he's always working on old, like he's got a shovel head and he's always doing something. But I really like his channel because he's so knowledgeable and he's been doing it for so long that I would definitely, and too, like Shade Tree, and you guys should go check him out too, because he's got lots of advice for anyone with a Harley, especially the older ones.
People are stepping out now for stuff, but thanks for coming, guys. Enjoyed having you. But we're gonna keep going. So, here's a question for you. If you could go anywhere on a motorcycle today, you don't have to start from your house. You can start from anywhere and ride to anywhere. Money's not an option. Location's not an option. Where would you go and where would you ride to?
Oh man, that's a hard one. There's so many places I want to go to, but I've always wanted to go to Europe. I would love to just ride around in Europe. Just check out, just go wherever. Yeah. But I also, if I could go anywhere today, right now, from my house, if it was that time of year, I would be going to Sturgis.
Right on. So definitely on your bucket list, because you've never been.
No, I've never been. Yeah.
What's funny about these meetups is the more you look into these meetups, there's so many of them. And Sturgis obviously is like, the mecca that people want to go to. But there's so many bike meetups. There's music meetups. There's barbecue meetups. There's motorcycle themed everything everywhere that you can just ride a motorcycle to. And once you start going to them, I think at one time, so I started wanting to say, well, I'll just do one a month. And then as I start looking through it, well, I'll have to find one a month. And then it's like, no, now I have to limit myself to one a month because they're everywhere. So, and that's awesome, but at the same time, it's like, so where am I going to go? But too cool, though.
Yeah, it makes it hard to choose. I think there's way more of that stuff that goes on down south of me. Like, you guys have tons of stuff, but that's probably most because the weather, like, you guys have riding weather.
The weather's great. We have a lot of what they call cruise-ins. We'll meet at, like I said, the Tasty Freeze or the Burger King or the Dairy Queen or Cycle Gear. Everybody will meet there, and then they'll have a little bit of show, look at each other's bikes, and then we'll ride somewhere. And then we'll ride somewhere else and kind of finish it off, usually at a bar, restaurant, or stuff. But it's called a cruise-in. And in the summer, every night something's going on. So it's just too cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think if I lived in a bigger city, then there'd be more of that kind of stuff going on. But it's not. You don't get a whole lot of that, like, right in my own town here. Like, that one thing that I used to go to at the Harley dealership was one of, like, very few things that actually happened, and I didn't go to many of them just because that's not my riding style, the way that those guys were riding like that. If I'm going to ride like a maniac, I'm going to ride by myself. Like, I'm going to ride like a maniac by myself, right? Like, I'm not going to go get into a group of 40 or 50 people that I don't know and go riding twice the speed limit all over the place, because that's just like a recipe for disaster. Like,
so Stuart said it would cost him $2,000 each way to ship his bike to Mexico or to Europe. And I see it all, especially in the BMW mags. I'm in the BMW MOA. They have setups where you can get a trip, and they fly you there, put you up, give you a motorcycle. Your food's paid for, your destinations are paid for, all your excursions are paid for, hotels are paid for, and you ride their bike for a week, and then you fly back. And it's actually cheaper than shipping a bike to Europe.
that sounds awesome.
Because you're on their bike the whole time. So Harley does it, and obviously they're more expensive. But these Alpine tours on BMWs, they're not that much. They're like $3,000. And it's a week long, and they get you there and they get you back.
Really?
So
that's okay. I would definitely do something like that. That'd be sweet.
They have them on Harleys
So where do you
too.
like?
Yeah, the Harley ones are a lot. They're in Italy. They're in Sweden. They're in. I'm sure they've got them all over Great Britain. France has them, but South America. They're all over South America too because we saw Hershey Wills went down to, and I can't remember the name of the company she used, but she went down to somewhere in Central America and rode for a week, and it was the same thing. They started in one place. Every night they'd ride somewhere else in the daytime and do all these food excursions and do like swimming trips and tubing trips, and they'd see these old museum type things, and then they'd ride somewhere else the next day, and then ride somewhere else the next day, and it's a full
Man,
week
that's
of
so
stuff.
cool.
Yeah, and they provide the motorcycle, so too cool.
That's one thing that I love about Itchy Boots. Do you watch Itchy Boots at all?
Oh yeah,
I think I asked you about her.
It's a
yeah, no,
religion.
yeah, we were talking about her last time.
it's a religion.
Yeah, man, and I'm just like, right? And I'm like, she. If there was anybody else who inspires me to ride, like other than my dad, it would be Itchy Boots, man. Because watching that girl, I'm just like, dude, like you are doing what so many people probably dream of, like riding your motorcycle around the world, like literally, and that's just your life, and it's like it's so cool, man. Like,
And she makes it look so easy. Like, oh, I'm gonna go ask these 5 thugs sitting on the corner where I should go have lunch. Okay.
yeah, she's so cool, man. She actually rode up through here on her way to Alaska. Some of the towns she was riding through are like only an hour or 2 drive away from where I am. I actually contacted her too. I emailed her. This is the beginning of my channel, or well, some point where my channel was still newer than it is, and I emailed her. It's like, hey, if you end up coming through the Okanagan, I'd really like to meet you. And she got back to me, but she's like, I'm gonna be too busy.
Yeah, she's a busy girl. I like the ones, and
Yeah.
and I've obviously asked people to to come by and do interviews with me and stuff, and most of them are very nice, and they say, well, yeah, I've got this stuff going on, but I'd love to hit me up another day. I've only had one that was really kind of nasty to me and treated me like I was sub-pay standard. Our community is just great because we communicate really well. Look, I've never met you before. You came on my channel. You're helping me out. I'm giving you viewers. You're giving me viewers. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is the way it should be. So, yeah, just like David was saying, if we can't help each other out, what's the purpose? So,
Yeah.
and this is
Yeah,
fantastic.
and I'd like to grow my YouTube, like my YouTuber community a bit more too. Like my problem is that I don't watch a lot of anything, and I've been that way like forever. I don't watch TV. I think last year I probably watched like 3 movies in the entire year. Like that's how little I watch anything on TV or just on the screen at all. But I make a point with YouTube of like subscribing to different channels like you and Shade Tree and stuff like that, and Saddle Tramp, and I watch as much as I can. I always try to leave a comment when I do, because it is important to kind of have that support for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Especially for us newer YouTubers who don't really know what we're doing yet.
Whiskey Chaser calls us the sophomores. We're just trying to make our way, and we're like floating around the cloud. So one way to grow your channel, would be to go to Forgotten Angels. Just saying.
Yeah. Hint, hint.
Hint, hint.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's fun. So
I'll definitely be making it out to one of those things when the opportunity arises.
They have them in the good parts of the year. So obviously there's going to be one in like 4 weeks. And then, so there's one in March and there's one in October. So it's in the softer parts of the weather year for Florida. So usually, at the nights they get down to maybe 60 or so. The days usually don't get past like 80, 85. But the whole camp out is under a bunch of trees. And it's very laid back. Yeah. You will love it. You will never meet a group of people like this. They are just an absolutely fantastic group of people. But
I've seen videos of it.
You will love it.
Yeah, it looks like a great time. Like there's I wish that there was more stuff like that happened close to me. But like I said, I feel like a lot of that stuff I've noticed just from watching different YouTube channels and stuff. You guys in the States, you guys have a lot more of that kind of stuff going on than what I've got in my area of Canada here anyway.
Yeah, and the weather's a big part of that. I mean, we can kind of plan things almost year round. Even I'm kind of in the middle of the States, as far as north-south. But literally, my riding season is like 11 and a half months long. So there's usually just a couple weeks out of the year that I can't ride. And they're like back-to-back. And sometimes there's like a sporadic day thrown in there where we have an ice storm, and then the next day it's back to 60 degrees again. So it's not bad. Not bad at all. So, have you inspired anyone to ride or wrench on their own bike?
Wrenching on their own bike, I don't know if I've inspired anybody to do that because, well, I don't know, but I think I've definitely inspired at least a couple other girls to start riding. So my uncle's wife, she's just recently put together a Triumph. Hers is like a 1970s Triumph anyway, but she just started riding recently, and she's got a foot clutch. It's all like opposite side right shifter and everything like that. So she's got the foot clutch and everything. I brought a video of us riding together. Actually, I think I titled it Biker Barbie because that's her nickname around our group. So she's started riding recently. So I definitely inspired her to ride. And then my older sister, she's looking at getting her bike license, and she's actually got this little bobber that people have probably seen in my garage here. This one here, can't really see it, but that's going to be her bike, and that's actually the bike I started out on. So I'm going to be teaching her how to ride on my channel. We'll make some fun videos of that.
I expected to see the orange one.
It's behind that one.
Okay.
Can't see it.
We won't give that away. That's the special bike.
That'll be my that'll be my little trail bike.
That's your Patreon foot show video. So yeah, you gotta go see that one.
Yeah.
If you could tell a rider one thing that you had to learn the hard way, what would it be?
One thing I had to learn the hard way, definitely patience, I would say. Patience on the road. And for me, like with a kickstart, patience with like just getting your bike started if you're just starting out and whatever, if you're learning a new bike. But I think patience on the road is a big thing. Thank God I haven't been in any accidents on the road. But I've had some really close calls, and really it's not worth being too impatient or trying to be in front of everybody all the time, especially like if you're riding in traffic. I think that's a big thing. It's just patience and not being overconfident in your abilities too. I think that there's a fine line between being overconfident and not confident enough when you're on a bike. And that's a lesson I actually learned on that little orange bike. That's the only bike I've ever crashed. And I crashed it probably pretty good for a little bike. I broke my nose and stuff, and
jeez, girl.
My teeth were bleeding at the gums and everything. And I think I had a concussion. I for sure had a concussion. But I tell that story in one of my viewers' rides videos. I whiskey throttled into the side of a truck and bounced my face off the fender. But that was definitely a lesson in overconfidence, because I'd been riding already for a few years at that point, and I just hopped on this little bike for fun. I'm riding up and down the alley, and I'm thinking to myself, I've been riding on the road for years. I got this thing, and then just being completely overconfident, I wasn't thinking about the bike, because this bike's it doesn't have a clutch, so you just shift. So I went to reach for the clutch when I was stopping, went to reach for the brake, on the wrong side, and there's nothing there. And then, just the way it all ended up being, I ended up whiskey throttling and smashed my face up a little bit on the side of a truck. But that was just being overconfident, not thinking about what I'm doing, just thinking like, yeah, I got this.
Making memories. So
making memories.
somebody just came into the chat that you have got to meet because you remind me of her. So Seven's from New Jersey. She's not quite as north as you, but she is that confident hard rider. Also rides she has a lowrider S, I think she does, and she's fixing to get a lowrider ST. She wrenches on her own bike. She's a hard rider, very laid back, cool to hang out with. You've got to come to the camp out just to meet her because she's freaking awesome. And Blake's okay too, and so is Rowdy. But anyway, seven is very cool. So I just had to throw that in there because she's our patience. When we have our big group chats, she's our little patient one. She brings sanity to us.
Oh yeah,
I think.
Yeah, we'll need one of those. The voice of reason in the group.
She is our voice of reason. Oh, she's blushing. Haha. Gotcha. If you could go out right now and buy any bike, and you're going to own it forever, what would it be?
I really want a Ducati Scrambler. I think something it'd either be Ducati or Triumph. But a Ducati Scrambler, I think I would go grab one of those.
So you said you're going to start trying to ride off-road more.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you... and your plans are the orange bike for that, or...?
No. The orange bike's just for fun.
Okay.
I want to go and I want to get an actual, a good off-road, an enduro of some sort. I haven't been looking at all or anything yet. I want to sell this Yamaha that I've got behind me first. I've got a Yamaha Gold Star I want to sell. But I do plan on picking up an enduro of something. I do want to get out onto the dirt trails a bit and just kind of build some skill on non-pavement riding conditions. I haven't really done much dirt riding, but that's definitely the next bike I get is definitely going to be an off-road bike of some sort because I want to get out there on the trails and just go and adventure around in the bush.
So I have a friend up in Ohio. So Aaron is telling me to remind you about the RE Scram 411. So the Royal Enfield, I have a friend in Ohio who owns a classic motorcycle, vintage motorcycle shop, but they also sell vintage styles like the Royal Enfields, Triumphs, Moto Guzzi's. But yeah, the 411, so last time I was there, I think it was in September, I went, and they had a bunch of the new 411s there, and they were so awesome looking.
Nice.
And it is what 411 actually is the upgraded version of Itchy Boots' bike that she rode all over Asia, Russia, India.
Yeah.
So that's the same bike, but it's actually built to do what she was doing with it. I think she probably had a big part of that. They should have called that one the Itchy Boots Special instead of the Scram 411. I think.
Yeah.
But anyway.
A lot of us probably think. Yeah, there's actually a Royal Enfield. There's a place in town here that I just discovered online the other day when I was just looking for bike shops, and they sell the Royal Enfield. So I was thinking about going to check them out and see what they got on their showroom. Make a video.
Yes, more
show
videos.
Off some Royal Enfields for my viewers. Yeah.
Everything is content. Film everything.
Yeah. So I definitely, I love, that's one thing I love about some of these older British bike companies and like the Triumph and stuff, is that they've kept that old school look with a lot of their bikes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Follow-up question to that one. If you could ride a bike just once, knowing you could never afford it or get on it again, what would it be?
I was thinking about this question, and I think it would have to be like one of those. It would be something really fast. I showed in one of my last videos this Triumph rocket that they had up in their showroom. This thing's insane. It does like, I think it's like 0 to 60 in like 2.5 seconds or something crazy like that. So,
I know
if I could hop on something like that.
I know someone who has one.
Do you?
And if you came down to visit, he would probably let you ride it.
Oh yeah.
The Shade Tree.
Oh yeah.
Shade Tree has one. And I don't think it has second gear right now, but who needs second gear when you can hit 60 in first gear? I mean, come on.
Right? Yeah, you just
skip through
it all together. Yeah. Yeah, I'd definitely like to try something like that out, or like it would be something fast, something crazy like that, or some V8 bike of some sort.
Yeah, they build those not far from me here. So the Boss Hoss factory is like an hour from here. And they do tours, and they will let you ride a bike at the end if you have a valid driver's license.
That's so awesome.
But some of those are very scary. I don't know if you watched the Bikes and Beards channels. They had bought one from somebody, and Boss Hoss had saw the video they made when they bought it and said, "We'll send you some bikes." So they sent 4 bikes down there. So they sent one down that was a 4-cylinder. They sent another 6-cylinder, an 8-cylinder. Then they had a turbo LS2 one, the Corvette engine, and they told him he could ride any of the bikes except for the turbocharged LS2. And I think the guy was joking about he's going to ride it anyway, and then he's like, "I don't even want to touch that bike." All of a sudden, I'm just because as he rode up from the 4-cylinder to the 6, and then the 8, and then the next 8, he was like, "This is the other 8's too fast. It's scary. I never even opened the throttle up." Because you can't. I mean, listen, he said, "I never got the bike over a quarter throttle." And it just kept going. It was like it would not stop. So.
Yeah, that's the thing about some of them bikes. I'm like, it'd be cool to try it out, but it might be the last time I ever ride a bike.
Yeah, and I think he said that the wheels, each wheel had 8 Brembo brakes on it, because as soon as you put it in gear, it wants to go. Just the friction of the clutch not even engaged makes the bike want to go.
Man.
And even just releasing the clutch and idle, it would do 80. It just goes. So it's just scary. That is freaking scary. That's
insane. Yeah, it's like they're definitely not meant for the road. They'd be cool to try out, but I think I'd be the same way on it. I wouldn't even open the throttle up.
Yeah,
like you gotta have experience. You have experience or something like that. Like,
can you imagine how that feels just to sit on it and have a V8 under you? Just, I don't know.
It'd be crazy.
So, 2 more questions. We're gonna. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. This interview has been so good. I don't want to stop asking questions, so I'm not. But I'm gonna have to try eventually. So, what is your toxic trait?
My toxic trait? Oh, man, if I'm going to be honest about this.
You don't have any, do you?
Toxic trait. I don't... Are you talking about, like my... I thought you had another question on there that I was trying to...
So, my toxic trait, I think, my toxic trait, I think, is like I keep trusting people, knowing that sometimes people don't always honor you, but I keep doing it anyway. And I'm also very OCD about things. So OCD would probably be my toxic one.
Oh, that's definitely one of mine. Especially like setting up my garage. I would like get all involved in like the littlest thing. It would be like, okay, this is just not like perfect yet. It's not set up perfectly, like organizing stuff and whatever. But I think my worst is probably that I'm a bit of a griper. I'm like, I'll just like be like, I'll grumble about things that don't even actually bother me, or that I won't even be in a bad mood, or and I'll just like that. I think that's probably my worst trait is that I'm a little bit of a griper sometimes.
I think
Just
everybody
grumble
gripes. I
about
think
little
everybody
things.
does that.
Yeah.
Shadow is saying that the Y2K, I forgot about that bike. So that's the one that, that is the bike, if anybody can remember from probably 20 years ago, Jay Leno had one and had to pay for somebody's, he didn't have to, but he just did. Because a guy pulled up behind him at the red light and he melted the guy's front hood. Because it has a jet engine on it. And it blows back, it blows back about 15 feet. And literally while they were sitting at the red light, he melted the dude's front hood.
Oh.
So I forgot about that bike. So thanks for reminding me of that one. But that would probably be pretty fun too. A jet engine on a motorcycle seems kind of scary, but kind of cool at the same time.
Yeah, that's crazy. Jay Leno's got some cool stuff.
Yes, he does, and he just had 2 bad accidents, back to back almost.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he had one where he got burned up real bad, got out of the hospital, and I don't even think a week later he had another wreck and like broke a bunch of bones. So yeah. But those things are going to happen, I think, when you ride. Eventually, you're going to have an accident. But it's worth
Eventually,
it. It's like a diver that one day, gets bit by a shark, or one day, might get the bends because he runs out of air. That's the nature of doing the thing that you love. Is sometimes things are going to go wrong.
You take a risk with anything like that. Doing anything that you love or that you're passionate about, there's always some risk involved, I think.
Yeah.
But I think if you're on the road, like being on a motorcycle, you just got to remember how vulnerable you are, because you gotta realize the majority of the people on the road, you gotta think as though they don't even see you, is the advice I've always been given. You gotta think of yourself as being invisible on the road when you're on a motorcycle, because you are. And like, there's so many times that I've been cut off by people just because they're not even looking for me, right? They're looking for a car. They're not looking for a motorcycle. And I always, a lot of time when I'm riding, or even when I'm not riding, I'll think of different scenarios in my head where, like, what would I do if this happened, or how would I respond if such and such a thing happened, right? Like, and I think it's good to kind of do that, to think up scenarios and how you would react in different situations if you encounter something on the road, and just try to be as prepared for those kind of unexpected things as you can be, right? Because you just never know. And that's another thing too, is like counter steering. I've met people who ride who don't know how to counter steer, and they never do it. They've never practiced doing it or anything like that. And I'm like, dude, you got to know how to counter steer. It's got to be second nature to you, because you don't know you need it until a moment when you actually need it, and then you need to have it as instinct and be something that you're not even thinking about doing. And like that ride that I was on with those guys, and me trying to keep up with them on that windy road, if I didn't have counter steering already like ingrained in my riding nature, I would have went off the road for sure. Because I didn't even think about it. Like, thinking back at it now, and just that whole moment and how quickly everything happened, I know for a fact that I would have been in the ditch if I hadn't already trained myself for a long time to counter steer out of, if there's something on the road or whatever, right?
And that's one of those things, like you were saying earlier, you have to have a good combination of self-esteem, but also don't overperform your performance. So to get that counter steering down, you've got to practice it. That way, when you do need it, it's there. Every 90-degree turn I make, I'll push into the corner, because it's always when you're in a curve and all of a sudden the curve does more curve than you all of a sudden were counting for. You have to be able to trust that you can push down into that curve, and the bike will turn with you. And it's just those simple things.
Yeah, and know your bike too, right? Like, don't just go. That's why, like, I don't want to go riding the Dyna around too much without making it fit me, because you gotta feel comfortable on what you're riding, and you got to know your bike. You got to know the limit, that like how much lean angle you have and stuff before you're going to go crazy on some windy roads. And counter steering, I think, is one of the biggest, one of the most important skills to have on a motorcycle, in my opinion, because like I said, it's going to save you from things that that are completely unexpected on the road, and you won't even realize that you're using it a lot of the time. And I love windy roads. I love counter steering on a windy road because it's so easy. It takes so much effort out of control, like having to try to control the bike, because the bike's just moving itself around, and the amount of movement you get just from like the smallest little push on your bars.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's great. And like, and like with being or like not confident enough too, like there's been times where I've been in a corner and I've been going too fast fast enough that by the time I get into the corner, I don't feel prepared for the corner. And the moment you start to think like, I'm not going to make this corner, you stop thinking about what you need to do to make the corner. And then like, that's where underconfidence becomes dangerous, because you're so worried about the fact that you might not make the corner. You're not thinking about what you need to do to actually make that corner. And I've had moments like that too, where, you get into a corner and realize that you're probably going a little bit faster than you should have been. And you need to focus more then on your skills and remember the fact that like you're on a machine that was built by you or whatever, right? A man-made machine, and you're the one controlling it. So you better control it, and you better make sure you know how to before you get out there and start doing some crazy stuff. So.
Absolutely agree. Whiskey Chaser just came in. Everybody say hi to Chase. He's the one I was telling you earlier that calls us all the sophomores. We're just working real hard, trying to get up in the world. I have seen, and you tell me this is your experience or not, in the last few years, people have been, it's almost like counter steering has become a buzzword, and people try to explain it that have no idea what it actually is. And I see a lot of crashes. I don't know if you ever watched Motostar's channel, but I've heard,
no.
I've heard he's from, I think, Russia, maybe the Ukraine, but he makes videos of other people that have crashed, and he doesn't over-explain it, because one of the other tubers I used to watch would over-explain these wrecks like it was like a scientific experiment. What Motostars does is just kind of says, this is what happened, and then this happened. But they always say, well, I was counter steering and all of a sudden I lost control of the bike. And when you look at their footage, what they're actually doing, instead of just trying to push down into the curve, they started turning the bars. And to a small degree, this is that thing you have to practice. Every time I hear somebody say counter steering is turning the bars in the opposite way you want to turn, I'm like, no. You're pushing that bike down. The bars do turn a little bit, but if you just turn them slightly, the bike will straighten itself up. You're actually just trying to flip the bike over on its side to use the smaller side of the tire. But over and over, I keep seeing these guys say, "Oh yeah, you just turn the bike in the opposite direction," and that's absolutely not it. Especially on a big bike, on a heavy bike, you're just going to topside on it, and it's kind of nuts.
Well, that's why it's called push steering. I feel like push steering is a better term to use for like amateur riders, because it makes more sense.
Yeah, that's what they called it in the 80s and 90s. They called it push steering, or they would call pushing the bike into the corner or pushing it down. When they started calling it counter steering, the term is kind of correct, but then when people try to apply it, again, and I think this is because they don't practice it. They just think at the last moment, I'll be able to counter steer, and they don't. A friend of ours that's in, I think he's in Virginia. I think Phil Zilla's in Virginia. But he goes every weekend almost to a parking lot and does maneuvers in the parking lot. And he's gotten to where people will actually go with him and he'll do videos and stuff. But practices, you can never use anything without practicing using it. Not a knife, not a gun, not a motorcycle, definitely not tactical skills like that. But you've got to practice those skills, like you say, to become proficient with them, to increase your own self-awareness, I guess. So
yeah. You want to be confident in the fact that you know how to use that skill when the time comes that you actually need it, right? Like, you can't just assume like that it's going to be easy and that it's going to come to you naturally in the moment that you need it if you've never actually made a point of having that be second nature to you. And that's like when I started riding, my dad told me that, and that was one of the first things he made sure that I went out and practiced. Is he's like, you gotta go, he's like, just trust me. Now it's gonna feel weird at first, but he's like, just practice going around potholes or manhole covers or whatever, find some dead street, you know, where there's not much traffic, and he's like, and just practice pushing on your handlebars and see how it makes the bike move. And he explained it all like mathematically and everything, because my dad's just like really mathematical when it comes to different things. So he explained like the geometry behind it and everything. And just like, he's like, get a bicycle wheel. He actually demonstrated it for me. He's like, take the front wheel off your bicycle and hang it on the axle on like whatever. I think he had some strings. He had something he hung it on, like a couple of pieces of rope. So it was just kind of floppy. He's like, you spin that wheel as fast as it can go, or as fast as you can get it going, and it just wants to stand up. And that's how counter steering works, is like your bike, your front wheel, when it's spinning like that, it's always going to want to keep trying to stand up, right? Like the momentum of the wheel spinning is going to want to keep it up straight. And that's how counter steering works. And that's why it's like you're always pushing on the opposite side, because it's, you're gonna, the wheel is gonna want to stand the bike up. But yeah, it's such an important skill to have. And it's not even that, it's not hard to learn either, but you can't assume that you're gonna know how to use it if you've never practiced it.
The best example I ever saw was, I think it was my advanced riding instructor, tapes 2 Dixie cups open end to open end. And when you hold them up, they go straight, and then when you tip it over, it moves to the side. So tipping it, actually turning it to the smaller side, where you've got a big side on one side and a small side on the other side, makes it turn to the inside. And that's the best example I'd ever seen of counter steering or push steering. And after that, it just kind of made total sense. But
yeah, I think that's like, it's helpful if people can have like a visual kind of demonstration of how it works, or how the physics behind it works, right? But it's definitely something like that people should practice. So if there's anybody watching this who doesn't know how to counter steer, go find a parking lot and get some cones to dodge. Yeah, like
practice.
Yeah, go practice. It'll save your life.
I have one final question, and I'm sad that it's the final question. But do you have any motorcycle superstitions that you do every time before you ride? Or is there something you will not ride without?
No, not really. Gas. Gas in my tank. No, there's no superstitions. I always have a prayer before I go for a bike ride, or when I'm on the bike. I'll always have a prayer just to be safe, because there's things that are out of your control. No matter how much of an aware rider you are, there's always that possibility of something that's completely out of your control happening on the road, right? So I wouldn't call that a superstition or anything like that, but yeah, that's probably the one habit that I have when I go for a bike ride, is I always say a prayer just to be safe on the road.
That works. But
I don't do any rituals or anything like that. Like
so I have a duck on both of my motorcycles, and that's my rainy day duck. So that's my assurance that I'll be able to ride in the rain.
Nice. I actually have never had a bell on my bike, just because I'm not superstitious, right? So I've never been given one. But then one of my viewers actually sent me a bell. First time I've ever been given a bell, and it's hanging on my Shovelhead now. I think I need to find a new spot for it on there somewhere. It'll be a little safer. But yeah, I've got a bell on my bike for the first time.
Somebody asked.
I know a lot of people.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I know a lot of people swear by their gremlin bells.
I have one my wife gave me, and I have one my daughter gave me, and one on each.
Yeah,
bike.
so you got nice.
Somebody asked if you have changed the address on your YouTube since you moved to your new city. So,
Yeah.
plan on getting stickers now
Yeah.
from my subscribers. Most of them have their own YouTube
Oh,
channels.
cool.
So,
I love stickers. I'm going to get a logo drawn. I don't actually have a logo. I've got that little, like, that image that's on my avatar and my YouTube. And that's more just, that's like an illustration or whatever, clearly of me and my motorcycle. But I'm going to get a logo drawn up, and then I'm going to start doing more merch type stuff. So that's my plan. So I'm just waiting for my tattoo artist buddy to get back from Australia.
awesome. Well, we have time for more, but I think our people probably want to go do things. So,
Yeah.
last thought, as David Nick would say, we're here to help each other. So, if we're not helping each other in this little community we have, what's the point? So, give us both a like, a subscribe, comment down below, and don't forget for a replay, Red's going to have a replay on her channel, probably edited out all the uhs and shit that I do, but to make it more presentable. So, yeah, give us both a like and a subscribe. So that's all we have for now. So, Red, if you want to hang out, I'll talk to you right after we're done here. And
Cool.
I guess that's it. I hate that this is it, but I guess we've got to. We got to give people a chance to eat and go sleep. So.
Yeah. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Especially all you who are. Some of you stayed up pretty late. I saw people's comments in there from places where it's the middle of the night for them. So.
Yeah, we had a couple from Australia, and I'm glad you guys came out. So.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thanks for showing up, everybody.